today we're really getting into how to launch a business venture effectively. And we're using a pretty interesting source for this, training session audio from a senior leader at Indus Viva.
Exactly. We've gone through this recording, and it's packed with advice, insights, even some motivational stuff. But for you, the listener, our mission here is to pull out the solid, actionable strategies.
Right.
And those mindset shifts you need, especially in the early stages, to build something successful. We want to get past just like basic participation.
Yeah, moving towards a more committed and impactful start. Filter out the hype, get to the core principles.
Precisely.
Okay, so one of the first things that really jumped out from the speaker was the emphasis on getting the start right. They kept mentioning this mantra, apparently from Indus Viva's CEO.
Yeah.
Well begun is half done.
It's a classic, isn't it?
It is. But what does that actually mean in practice, according to this training? Like, for someone just starting out?
Well, it boils down to the power of being deliberate, a really thoughtful initial approach. The speaker's argument is, if you think through those first steps properly, you just dramatically increase your odds of success later on.
Okay.
So the big question they pose is, what does that right start actually look like? What are the components?
And in the specific context, Indus Viva, the first official rank they mentioned is Star. That's based on, what, about 12 product retailings?
Yeah, something like that. But here's where it got interesting. The speaker argued pretty strongly that the real starting point, or maybe the mindset you should have, isn't just hitting that first star rank.
Oh, what then?
They pushed for aiming at a turnover equivalent to Star 250.
Star 250. Okay, what does that translate to?
So for context, that's around 300 PV. In rupees, roughly 38,000, which, funnily enough, is still about the same number of products, maybe 12 or so.
Okay, so same volume, but framed differently. Why the push for that specific level right at the start?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't
Yeah.
it? And the speaker had a very, very direct reason.
Which was?
They used a local phrase, which I thought was quite powerful.
धन लगे तो ही मन लगे.
It basically translates to, if your money is invested, your heart will be in it. Or, the familiar idea of having skin in the game.
Ah, right. So making that slightly bigger commitment, aiming for that 300 PV, it signals more seriousness.
Exactly. It shows a different level of intent. The speaker kind of implied that if someone hesitates even at that level, you might question their long-term commitment.
Yeah.
It's a bit provocative, maybe.
Yeah, definitely sets a standard.
And to give it a bit more context, they even brought up the Prime Minister's encouragement of entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Just using the example of starting small, like maybe a street food stall. The point wasn't the amount of money, necessarily.
But the mindset.
Exactly. Adopting a real business mindset from day one. That initial seriousness, that's what sets the tone.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's say someone's aiming for this Star 250 level. They're committed. What about the pace of progress? Because the next point was a bit counterintuitive. Slow is the fastest way.
Yeah, that one makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It does. What's the thinking there? Is it just about being careful?
It's more about the difference between being quick and being hasty. That's the key distinction the speaker made. Certain things, like making your contact list, planning your approach, yes, do them promptly. Don't procrastinate, but do them thoroughly. Don't rush. Because if you slap together a half-baked plan, you end up with, confusion, a shaky foundation.
Yeah.
And that actually slows you down in the long run.
They used an analogy, didn't they? Something about food.
Yeah, undercooked food. You might eat it quickly, feel like you save time, but problems later.
Right. Indigestion, metaphorically speaking.
Exactly. Same with business.
Yeah.
Rushing the start might look like activity, but it might not be sustainable, not healthy growth.
And they brought in the Japanese business culture angle, too.
They did. Pointing out how Japanese companies often spend a lot of time on planning. Meticulous planning before launch. It might seem slow initially, but the result is often really high quality. The whole made in Japan reputation comes partly from that.
And there's a connection to Indus Viva's products.
Apparently, yes. The speaker mentioned their product formulations follow similar rigorous Japanese standards. It ties into that philosophy of quality over just speed.
Which links back to the CEO's view on volume, right? It wasn't just about the numbers.
Precisely. It's not just how much volume you achieve, but how you achieve it. That was a big point. Meaning sustainable growth comes from doing things ethically, following the system, not looking for shortcuts or, quick schemes that might inflate numbers temporarily.
I had another analogy for that. Crops.
Chemically fertilized crops versus naturally grown.
Mm-hmm.
One might shoot up fast, but it lacks real strength, real nourishment. It's not stable. Volume gain through dodgy means is often unstable too.
And the ultimate analogy for building something lasting.
The Taj Mahal.
Right. Not thrown together like a temporary hut.
Built with incredible care, precision, attention to detail, designed to last for centuries. It really drives home that the effort you put into that right start, that thoroughness, it pays off in the long run. Stability, impact.
Okay, so you've made the committed start. You're aiming for star 250. You're being deliberate, not hasty. What comes next? The training shifted focus then, didn't it?
Yes, onto something crucial. Supporting and developing the new people who join your team.
The nurturing aspect. And they really emphasized the first 90 days.
Hugely. The analogy was quite striking, comparing it to a mother caring for a newborn.
Wow. That implies a lot of attention.
Total care, consistent attention. The speaker even suggested, maybe slightly hyperbolically, that this intense involvement might be needed for like 5 years.
5 years. Okay, maybe not literally, but the message is clear.
Right.
Serious dedication is needed.
Absolutely. And the practical takeaways from that analogy are important. Like providing the necessary tools, making sure they meet experienced leaders the upline, getting them into training sessions, keeping them engaged.
Keeping them alive, so to speak. There was another movie reference.
Yeah, Tigers in the High. Nurturing them so they can survive and thrive in the business environment.
It's about building a relationship then, not just a transaction.
Exactly. That consistent support builds their confidence.
Mm.
And related to that was the point about introducing new people to the upline.
Ah, yes, the experienced people above you. How should that be handled?
The key word was without ego.
Explain that.
Just recognizing that there will always be people with more experience, bigger achievements. Making that proper introduction is vital for the new person's growth. It shows them the path, the potential, and it also sort of introduces the idea of edification, building respect for mentors, which they mentioned might be a future topic.
Interesting. Edification. Okay. And there was another analogy about capacity, managing someone famous.
Right, like managing a top star, say Shah Rukh Khan. You need the capacity to handle high-potential individuals effectively, to guide them properly.
Which leads to your own development as a leader.
Mm-hmm. The speaker outlined this progression. You start as a soldier, diligent, follows the system. Then you become a commander, leading a small team. Then a king, overseeing a larger structure. And finally, an emperor.
Quite the journey.
But the core idea is that your personal growth is the foundation. Your personality, your capabilities, that's the bedrock of your entire organization, your business.
So that flows perfectly into the next key insight. Personal development isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely central.
Couldn't be clearer. It's not just about market strategy or products.
Yeah.
It starts with you.
And they gave concrete examples, didn't they? Things people can actually do.
Yeah, practical stuff like waking up early, building discipline, consciously working on communication skills, even personal appearance, paying attention to the details.
In attending training, absorbing knowledge.
Definitely. The core message was stark. You cannot change the market until you change yourself.
Powerful. And it's about consistency, right? Not giant leaps.
Exactly. Small, consistent efforts. Those little improvements compound over time. That's where the real significant long-term results come from.
Which loops us back, in a way, to the Burj Khalifa analogy, but with a deeper layer this time.
Yes. Revisiting it to emphasize the importance of your internal foundation.
Okay, how so?
Just like the building needs deep foundations for height and stability, your business needs your internal depth.
Meaning your skills, your knowledge, your mindset.
All of that. Thorough preparation, strong internal qualities, that's what allows for lasting success. The story of building it in the desert, the incredible planning, the deep, deep foundations that illustrates the point perfectly.
And that internal strength helps you handle negativity too.
Absolutely. That resilience, that professionalism, it comes from having that solid inner foundation. You're less likely to be shaken by external challenges.
Okay. Now, towards the end, the speaker introduced a specific current initiative, something called Bano Banao.
That's right. A special booster program tied into the company reaching its 600-week milestone soon.
Bano Banao. Become and make, essentially.
Pretty much. And the focus, it brings us right back to that key early milestone, Star 250.
Ah, so it's designed to encourage people to hit that level.
Both to hit it themselves and to help their new team members hit it.
And there are incentives attached.
Yes, tangible rewards. For becoming a Star 250 yourself, and also for each new person you help achieve Star 250 within the time frame.
Which is relatively short.
Yeah, they mentioned about 16 weeks left, tying into that 600-week mark. And the speaker mentioned an extra $2,000 income for each new Star 250 you help create.
So it really underlines the importance the company places on that Star 250 level as a proper starting point.
It absolutely does. It reinforces that whole right start philosophy we talked about earlier.
And the call to action was clear.
Very clear.
Right.
Learn the details about this Bano Banao contest.
Yeah.
Talk to your upline, check the team WhatsApp groups, get the specifics.
Okay. So wrapping all this up, the core message, the key takeaway for someone listening, it seems to be about a fundamental mindset shift, right?
Definitely. Moving from just joining to making that significant initial commitment, aiming for Star 250.
Right.
Understanding that slow, steady, systematic progress is actually the fastest way to build something solid.
Right.
Prioritizing the nurturing of new team members, almost like a caregiver. Recognizing that your own continuous personal development is the absolute bedrock of your success.
And leveraging current opportunities like this Bano Banao initiative as a practical way to accelerate that growth.
Exactly. It all ties together.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap those main themes for everyone listening. We explored the critical need for a strong start, setting your sights on that Star 250 level. The surprising power of deliberate progress, slow, is the fastest way for lasting results. The essential role of nurturing new team members, really investing in their early stages.
Crucial.
The foundational importance of your own personal growth, you build yourself first.
Always.
And using current tools like the Bano Banao initiative to put these principles into action and gain momentum.
Spot on.
So that leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on.
Consider the depth you're building in your own ventures right now. Is it deep and sustainable? Are you focusing on those solid foundations on your own continuous growth? Or perhaps are you maybe chasing quicker results that might not last?
Yeah, and how can you take these principles, the right start, the Bano Banao mindset, and apply them today to whatever goals you're working on, inside or outside of this specific context?
It's broadly applicable, isn't it?
Definitely. And for further exploration, maybe really think about that Burj Khalifa analogy. How deep are your foundations?
You could even research other successful long-term businesses. What deliberate steps did they take early on?
Good idea. And of course, if it's relevant, dig into the details of that Bano Banao concept. See how you might leverage it for your own progress.